And same. All right. So, first question. What is your view on homebrew?
So my view on specifically homebrew in regards to 40k is that I think all of it's usually okay. As a whole, homebrew is basically a way to express yourself in the fandom, and 40k genuinely from the outset for, say, like Rogue Trader has always been about adding your own customization. See, in the original days of Rogue Trader, I don't know if you know this, but they basically made the entire system to try and port over as much conversion material from Warhammer Fantasy, because Fantasy was the game that came first, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I bring this up every now and then on my own channel, where essentially they wanted to make it so that every single race from Fantasy was playable in 40k. And in White Dwarf at the time, when they were like printing this stuff, they would give guides on how to convert orcs over into like 40k from Fantasy. I remember even up until about 7th edition, Duncan, if you look it up, Duncan of the Two Thin Coats himself, he posted a tutorial on how to convert a Savage Orc Bone Splitter into a Snakebites Orc. So the core philosophy of 40k in the beginning was all about homebrew and conversions and all that jazz. They gave you that leeway to create it. And I think that that's something that should be encouraged. Conversions and homebrews and all of that is something that should definitely be encouraged. And I think it doesn't matter how complicated it is. If you want to make it like stupidly overly complicated, or you want to make it kind of simplistic, it's all up to you. There's a reason why the 11th and the 2nd Primarchs are they're not in the game, and we could all wax poetic about, oh, it's because the lore said no. It's because it was a marketing tactic to be like, I'm making my own chapter and they have the secret 2nd Primarch. It's always been that kind of way. But no, I'm a huge fan of like homebrew. I have like very little experience in it, but like studying it throughout the history of like 40k, you realize that like that's what all the original Space Marine chapters were. They were literally just making them up on the spot for a magazine ad, and then people either liked them or didn't like them. It's always been pretty fun like that, right?
Yeah. You bring up an interesting point, and that's how everything basically is homebrewed.
Yeah.
You know, the only difference between what is canon and what is not canon is what is officially recognized by the IP in question.
Mm.
And then that brings on to my next point. There are two main types of homebrew. As we discussed, there is the canon homebrew, quote unquote, or the canon-friendly homebrew. And then there's the fuck you, my god regiment has power armor and plasma cannons.
Nah, I guess you. And I think that's actually kind of a fun point to bring up, because there's actually, I suppose the word I'd use is precedent. There's precedent in like the actual 40k fiction of homebrew being made canon.
Yeah.
What
was it?
Are you familiar with the Shadow? No, Shadow Wolves.
Yes, the Shadow Wolves.
Yeah, Shadow Wolves. For those who don't know, the Shadow Wolves were created. Well, they were a faction that's existed for a while now. They're basically just a name without a color scheme. They were a successor chapter of the Imperial Fists, and basically Aaron Dembski Bowden, his wife, was a big fan of the Luna Wolves in the Horus Heresy, as she was starting to read that at the time. And this was during, I believe, when Aaron Dembski Bowden was actually writing Hell's Reach. So if you go back and read this book, it actually mentions the Shadow Wolves. So he wanted to make his own homebrew faction out of the Shadow Wolves that were basically making them a modern version in 40k of the Luna Wolves. And I thought that was always kind of an interesting way of going about it. And I think that's kind of putting a good perspective on how homebrew can actually affect the world of 40k, especially if you're like an author that's there.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of like the Sons of the Phoenix, the Primaris Space Marine chapter.
Yep.
Yeah, they started out as a homebrew from one of the GW employee, and they became canon. That happens a lot.
I'm a big fan of them.
40k.
Oh yeah, I love that kind of stuff. It's why I did a video relatively recently, not to plug my own stupid channel.
I mean,
but
you're already getting plugged regardless. I want you to know that, so go ahead.
No, do not credit me. Do not even say my name in this video. I want people to guess.
No, you will be credited for your contribution. Damn it.
No, you're good. But it's like how recently. I'm assuming you're familiar with the Rainbow Warriors, right?
Yes.
So the Rainbow Warriors, how familiar are you? Because I don't want to, you know what? Screw it. It's for a video. Who cares? I'm not going to skirt the line here. So for those who don't know, the Rainbow Warriors are a faction that's kind of, the way that I kind of present it is they're split between two personalities. These two personalities, most people don't even consider. They usually just think that there's one representation of the Rainbow Warriors, and that is like Aztec death warrior kind of aesthetic.
I mean, that's
rainbow
what I know
frills. That's not canon. That's actually the homebrew. The real Rainbow Warriors, we know almost nothing about them. The only instances we've seen of them is a Death Watch Marine making fun of them in an audio drama. I'm not kidding. I looked it up and I reread it. I think it was, oh god, it was Mission Extraction, I believe the name of it. I'm probably getting it wrong, but there was I think it was a Space Wolf who's just like, I mean, if everything goes worse, you could join the Rainbow Marines, and everybody in the room just starts laughing, and they're like, what's wrong with the Rainbow Marines? And he's like, come on, the name, come on.
Oh.
And I'm like, dude, quit clowning on Rainbow Marines, they're pretty cool. And the only other instance we have in like the modern lore outside of like Rogue Trader up to 3rd edition, I think it was in a Trazen audiobook, which was the War of the Museum, where they unfreeze some ancient Rainbow Warriors, and they have like rainbow plasma tech for some reason, and that's it. We don't have anything. The Aztec is actually, it came from a homebrew source, so it's technically not even canon. And I think that's very interesting as a point, and another good example as to why homebrew should be like universally accepted, because the lore of the homebrew Rainbow Warriors is like, people treat that as canon over the regular canon, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, same. I mean, that is the general consensus.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny to me because like in the world of 40k, especially recently, we're very protective over our canon. Some people a little too much in some cases. But
I understand.
Yeah, we're not getting into that, but some people like to argue on the internet. And you know what, you do you, chief. I got a job.
Nah, I get it. I'm not gonna get into it too much, but I will say that I'm like the exact opposite. When it comes to like the modification of the canon, as long as the stories are good, I don't care how they modify the canon, because as long as it produces good writing and good stories, that's all that really matters, right?
Yeah. You know, I'm the type of person, I agree. Does it make sense? Does it add something unique? Does it do anything that enhances the setting? You know, then I'm okay with it. Of course, you know, something that we as 40k content creators, we've talked about it a few times. 40k really needs a 40k Bible. It's like, hey, don't do this. Do anything else. If it's not on this list, crack on. It'd make life so much simpler. Because even 40k doesn't know what 40k is at times, and it's annoying. Like how, the Space Marine and the damn, the Custodians and the damn Space Clown. God damn it, that makes me upset.
Yeah, with the, you're referring to that time that allegedly someone forgot the Custodian Guard were not palace, just like normal humans in like a novel, and they were, I find that super interesting, and
damn you, Chrono.
I just hard disagree. I just think that like the Harlequins get shit on too much. I think they deserve more, but also I hate Eldar, so I got to maintain that brand. So like,
I mean, but when you come on, like, dude, it's like one Solotor took out like 3 Custodies. That even you. So that's come on.
Okay, allegedly solitaires are supposed to be like Primarch tier, and
oh come on, bro.
Allegedly, I think that's some bullshit, because you can't just pull out a Primarch tier character and have them be a no-name guy. But I do think it's interesting. I think that like
it's interesting, done poorly, but interesting.
The way that I kind of see it is, I have this idea when it comes to most fantasy settings. I do this with D&D a lot, and I know I mentioned this earlier, but like I have way more experience with D&D than I do with 40k, which says something considering I've made my entire career off of 40k. But there's this idea that I put forth every time I do a D&D campaign, and it's always homebrew, and it's the idea of a top end of power scaling. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, you have to establish what the highest end of a setting is, because you need to make it clear that, okay, so everything that is in this universe is either below that or, but there's nothing above that. Sorry, there's no either there. It's just like everything has to be below that or on par with that. And that's kind of what the Custodian Guard are for the Imperium, and it's supposed to set stakes. And it's why I don't like it when custodians are thrown around as like the end all be all, because at the end of the day they're still humans. I want to see if there's any record of like, can a normal human knife just stab a custodian? Like if you just had them like frozen, could I just go over and like stick a really long knitting needle into their brain and like could it work theoretically?
I mean, not really. According to lore,
right?
Cody's skin is supposed to have the tensile properties of kind of like a light metal. It's
I would assume Kevlar. So just basically, it just doesn't tear.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be very protective.
Yeah.
But again,
I know
it's
that,
one of those things where like we don't really know. Like there's no precedent of like, you know. Yeah. There's no concrete evidence of, hey, the custodians can do X, Y, and Z. It's the same issue with like Space Marines. In some instances, Space Marine lost half his head, still went on to fight. Space Marine got shot in the heart. He dies. It's like there's no like consistency about it, and those from 2 canon sources. So it's like, you know, what do we do?
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I think that that's perfectly fine.
Really?
Not even in like a me trying to just be contrarian. I genuinely think that that's perfectly fine from like several different perspectives. So this is going to link back to homebrew at some point, I swear.
That's fine. My viewers are used to me rambling.
No, fair, same. I'm long-winded as shit. But I think for one, you have to kind of realize that like in Black Library, there are going to be well over, I think, 24 authors writing for 40k at any given point, and you're not going to have the same perspectives from person to person. So, like, from the perspective of, like, Aaron Dembski-Bowden, I know I bring him up a lot, but he's my favorite author. But from his perspective, a Night Lord is probably one of the most dangerous Space Marines to find, not because they're like strictly like dangerous, but because they're one of the most unpredictable legions to deal with. But say, oh god, there's that new book that's coming out. I think it's a Christy Horton book, and I like her novels. She wrote, not Christy Horton, she's the voice actor. Oh god, Faith and Fear. I gotta remember who's writing this, but she came in to talk, and she's talking about how she's like building up Night Lords. Oh god. To be this big threat. What is it? It's Morven Val, the Spear of Faith, and it's done by Jude Reed. So I saw an interview with her talking about Night Lords, and her perspective on them is that they are brutes, but they're good at being scary. And those are 2 different perspectives, and I like to think that because of how broad the setting is, it gives you that wiggle room that it can be that. Like, could you possibly shoot, say, an Imperial Fist in the head and they die instantly? Yes, but could you do the same to a Black Dragon? I don't know. There's a case to be made. I think that the difference of opinion makes the setting so interesting because it breeds this argument that you could be like, oh no, I'm playing a specific subsection of the Imperial Fists that have a weirdly functioning os modula that give them weirdly strong heads. I don't know. But there's like precedent for you to do whatever you want in the setting. And I think having that kind of creative freedom while also being super vague about it is both a blessing and a curse. Because one, you're going to get arguments. There's always going to be arguments of like, oh, my Space Marine chapter is better than your Space Marine chapter because they do this. When it's like, that's not the point. It's It's creativity kind of trumps all. And if you like the Black Templars more than anyone else, cool, you're right. They're the best chapter in the world. And if you like Blood Angels more than anything else, you're wrong. They're not the best. But like you can like them. You can be wrong. It's fine. But it's like at the end of the day, I find the creativity and the difference of opinion from all the authors and all the people who view things in the setting makes it as interesting as it is. Now, we do have to kind of look at that under the lens of not to be that sensationalist guy, but like we have to look at that under the lens of capitalism, where like there's a reason why the Ynnari aren't brought up anymore, and it's because they didn't sell that well. I mean, they did sell well, if I remember correctly, like for the first little bit, but nobody played them for a while afterwards, and because of that, GW canceled an entire series involving them. Sad. And yeah, it is. It's really sad. It ended with them pleading with the Death Watch, be like, wait, just give us like 15 minutes and we could like make your life so much easier. And they're just like, nope, never. And then they just whatever. But yeah, so like because the factions that get bought the most get the most lore, and because of that they get written the most. It's why homebrew is kind of important to fill in those gaps. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think end statements with enough waffling about done. Homebrew is incredibly important for the sake of just adding diversity in terms of like the creative pool to like the setting. Like again, the Rainbow Warriors, they give you that kind of like Aztec, South American kind of vibe. And we don't really have any chapters that occupy that. I know that like
which is
canonically
a criminal thing. Aztecs
are
I know my favorite, just because like I've seen some fan art of an Aztec Space Marine with a chainsword in the style of a Majehuatl. And let me tell you, when that shit is just
good based.
Peak.
It's really cool. Yeah. Also, I have never heard anybody pronounce that the same. That's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's one
of
those
good.
things.
You're good. But yeah, I think the closest we have to any even like, I think in terms of like Hispanic chapters would be like the Crimson Fist, and I think that's it.
Yeah.
Because I know that like canonically their entire
Fists.
Yeah, Crimson Fists are fantastic. Funnily enough, I'm in that weird nexus with the Crimson Fist where I could make a video about them, but I already was on a podcast discussing them for like 2 hours straight. So like, I don't know if would that be doubling down, but
nah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd watch it.
So
yeah,
of course. But regardless, that's my opinion on just if homebrew is good or bad or whatever.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in like I like the idea that different warbands and different chapters respect, because it's basically what it is, right? The legions for chaos are warbands, and for the loyalists got broken up into chapters, which is why it can be so different. It's what I adore. I always make the joke, Ultramarine successes are nothing like Ultramarines, but that's part of the brilliance of it. Each individual chapter becomes its own thing. My main issue with it is that there is no structure at all. Like, as I mentioned before, we don't actually know what a Space Marine is capable of. We don't. We don't know how tough they are.
It's like structurally inconsistent across the board.
Yeah, which means that like, for me, right, if I want to create a homebrew, right, and I want to make the toughest Space Marines ever, well, I don't have any references, because in some cases, Space Marines are able to have their internals ripped out and still fight on, and in other cases, they get one-tapped in the head by a sniper. So I feel like that's why homebrew is very contentious in the 40k community, because I feel like there are some people who do like it, but then there are other people who see it purely as cringy fanfiction, which, it can have the possibility to be, but I feel like it's very necessary when you make a homebrew. You need to decide, is this something that could fit into the setting, or am I doing this for shits and giggles? Both are acceptable, but you just got to make sure that you know which one you want to put your hand into.
No, I completely agree. And something you might find interesting, but I think it's also criminal, that it's not impossible, but it's very difficult to find images of this. But so this is like a very well-known, I'm going to post this in the chat. I don't know if you're going to put this in your video, whatever.
I mean, I can always grab the picture.
Yeah, you've probably seen this image before, right? This is famous Emperor Spears image.
Yeah,
it's nice. So
love it.
I spent over $200 Canadian, so it's like $5 American or some shit. But on the limited edition of the Emperor's Spears, or Spear of the Emperor book by, again, Aaron Dembski-Bowden. But it comes with a very interesting guidebook that's very similar to what you're talking about. So it actually has, like, one of the coolest parts of it is at the back of it, it has this like translucent set of like 10 pages where each one has like a different layer of armor that's being added onto the Space Marine. And as you pull it back, there's also descriptions of what each plating and individual piece of the armor does. And once you get down to the individual Space Marine, you get into the small art book itself that actually gives you a breakdown of the statistics that you need to know about the Emperor's Spears, like every single part of their chapter, the differences in the gene seed. And it's been a while since I've read it, so it's like I have it somewhere because like I don't want to keep it like safe, so it's in the case. Yeah, no, it's actually good. And the fact that like there's almost no art references out there for this specific like book, and no one talks about it, but it gives you like an idea of like their entire chapter, their resources, how strong they are, the production rate of like new aspirants ever since like they got access to Primaris tech and shit. It's hard to find references that are like that, but the one that they did for the Spear of the Emperor limited edition box is like, it's actually really, really good.
Yeah, I like that. I wish that there was something like that for like every faction.
Yeah, it would definitely be very interesting.
Well,
oh god,
that then brings me on to my next point. What's your experience in homebrew in general? You know, 40k is something we'll touch upon, but like you said that you did a lot of D&D stuff.
Oh yeah. So my experience with like homebrew for 40k is pretty limited, but I'll do the D. I don't want to talk too much about D&D because I could talk for hours about D&D, but
I don't crack on that.
Perfect. That's like, you are like one of only 4 people I've heard use that expression. But so
I am part British.
Valid. Canada, cool.
Canadian.
But
Canadian.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
syrup there.
Okay, we're not in that part of Canada. We're in the Scottish part of Canada. You know that
There's
one
a Scottish part of Canada?
Yeah, not a lot of people talk about it. It's real. There's okay, Canadian history lesson on your 40k thing. So there's like a bunch of colonies that were established. They're a collective of colonies that were under like the British Commonwealth, but there was like several different colonies that were established under different like countries, and the province that I'm in is actually, it was settled by the Scots. It's why it's called Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia literally translates to New Scotland. Yeah. So I'm just like, hell yeah. But yeah, not a lot of people who are actually learn French. And if we do, it's like, man, I'm going to be mean for a second, but it's like that bastardized, terrible French known as Acadian French.
Yeah, French people do not like Quebec. Quebecian?
No, they do not. Oh, because like Quebecois is like, I've heard people speak Quebecois French. It's terrible. It's not the worst dialect of French we have in Canada. Trust me. If you know, you know. Oh God, yeah. We have Acadian French. We have Quebecois. We have like that weird one that they speak in Manitoba. But there's like, oh God, there's this one dialect that I've heard, and no one's gonna know what I'm talking about. Maybe 3 people is gonna know what I'm talking about. But it's called Chiac. It is unironically the worst French I've ever heard in my life. I barely understand French, but like I could not get a single word out of it because it's just this weird. It's like this weird franglais. It's a weird mix of English and French at the same time with like a thick Canadian accent. It's so gross to listen to. But, yeah, but I digress. So, my history with like D&D does tie into 40k, so I'll just get into it. So 40k I started like age 19. D&D I started at like age 10. I've been a game master for pretty much not retroactive, but like consecutively every year ever since I hit 10, because that's when I started playing. I made my own games because we didn't have any like local game stores to buy shit from. We have one now. He's cool. But because we didn't have anything, I had to make up my own games.
Mm-hmm.
So I just looked up fantasy stories that I really, really liked and incorporated themes into it, and had to make up shit and rules on the side. And it gives me this kind of like weird ability to do that. And I think that's kind of an important thing. I think that's my biggest talent as like a game master, is that I can come up with a full D&D campaign, no prep whatsoever. You just give me a theme and a setting, and I could throw something together, and you'll never know that I didn't prep it. Yeah, it's
the power of waffling.
Cool. It's good. Once you know what you're doing and you have enough experience, it's really good.
I mean, my default is just make anything Latin sounding and people buy it.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's always like, I do like the George R.R. Martin approach of just like, to the north there are barbarians. I'm just like, whatever. No one will know. No one will know. It's great.
Fake it till you make it, baby.
Right. So because of that, it's given me this kind of like idea of how to make like fantasy factions that people would like, and explore the taste things that I like. So when I got into 40k, that didn't immediately translate because I didn't know the lore well enough. And once you know the lore, you can do whatever the hell you want. But so my experience with homebrew is so it started off kind of weird because in my local area, people don't really partake in the lore as much as they could. And it's more of a gameplay community, which is cool. If you're a gameplay community, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So like I have a friend who plays Tyranids, great guy. But he themed his entire Tyranid army after the Zerg. So
nice.
They're not brown or anything. They're like, he basically just commissioned someone to paint his Tyranid army, and it was like someone's mom who knew nothing about 40k, so she just threw these like random ass colors together, and it kind of stuck. It was like metal shells, purple armor, and like white talons. Cool. And he even like kit bashed like an elf witch from Warhammer Fantasy and gave it like Tyranid wings that he made because he wanted to have like, yeah, and he put magnets on the underside of her base and on her as a model, and then he put every single big monster on the tabletop. There's a little vent that moves away, and there's a magnet spot so that he plays her as a brood lord, and not a brood lord, yeah, brood lord. And when she dies, he just pulls her off the base and makes her start riding one of the big beasts. It's cute. High Fleet Amphis, I believe they call it, because the Norn Queen was called Amphis.
That's sick.
Yeah, and it's cool. But most people would just play whatever they thought was cool looking. So we had like a lot of Dark Angels. We had a lot of Dark Angels. Now that I think about it, I don't think we had any other chapter. Oh wait, no, there was that one guy who played Raptors for a short instance. That was kind of fun. Then he disappeared. But yeah, so eventually I didn't start with Homebrew because I didn't know the setting well enough. So I started with Tau, and then I didn't even have a faction for Tau. I just ended up selling them because I hated playing Tau.
Yeah, melee good.
And then I got into Deathguard. Deathguard were my ride or die. And how it started was I was like, I want to play a faction that isn't just the regular green Deathguard. So I started playing a sub-faction by the name of the Pallid Hand. They are single-handedly the most impressive paint scheme of Deathguard you could put on the table. But fuck me, they are not fun to paint. It's
a lot of white.
Yes, but also worse than that, you have to do recess shades with sepia, and if you fuck that up, it looks like they're covered in poop. It's
very
rough.
I mean, on theme for the Deathguard though.
But it's not what I wanted. The Pallid Hand are all about rust. Let me see if I could find like a good example of their paint scheme, because Duncan did like a really good example where every single pockmark and hole in their armor, here's a good example of what they're painted like. Every pockmark and hole in their armor is supposed to be filled with like a brown rust that's leaking, and I thought that was a really cool look. And also like a white army is like super striking on the tabletop, and it took me days to paint one Marine. It sucked.
Very nice.
So I eventually drifted away from that, and I went to the Poison Chalice, I believe they're called. They're just neon green, and then people were like, it's not nearly as cool as your Pallid Hand paint scheme. I'm like, fucking so right, it sucks. So I immediately made my own paint scheme, and I was like, man, I want to make something that's like completely unique to me. So I did. And that was technically my first homebrew scheme, because like even though I played Space Marines, I bounced between chapters that I liked. And those were kind of like the only factions that I actually played. So I made this faction in my head, and I just made a paint scheme, and I was just like workshopping Marines, because like I had a thing where like every 6 months I have to buy a new box of Plague Marines just so that I can keep my army up and like in the proper way. So I would buy a new box of Plague Marines. So I always had like test subjects, and stripping Plague Marines sucks dick, but like I mean,
You gotta do what
I
you gotta
did
do.
it, right? So did that, and I ended up coming up with this kind of off beige color with a blue trim, and using the same technique from the palette hand. I took white and I dabbed it in every single pockmark and crack that's in their armor, but I left that white to dry, and then using the contrast paint cyan and yellow, I put that in those little pockmarks that were painted white, and it looks like they have these like bright, almost molten, glowing sores that are going up throughout their entire body. And I started to piece this army together, and like with that little detail, it actually it pulled everything together. Like it was actually genuinely like a really nice game, and people were telling me that it was like one of the better ones that I've ever come up with. And that's when I did a 10-man unit of them. Do I have any photos of them? I don't take pictures of my models, so I'm just like, do I? But I had a 10-man of that done, and I brought it in, and people were like, this is really good. And I'm like, okay, cool. What should I name them? And that's when I just started to like think about what I should name them. I do have a photo of them, but they're covered in dust. So I'll post this to you just so you can see what I mean. Oh god. There we go. Perfect. I'll send this to you. But basically, I started to like come up with this lore. And then that's when I kind of started to fall in love with the idea of like homebrewing it, because I was researching like precedents that were in the 40k lore for Deathguard, and I came up with this idea of the Weeping Lords is what I called them, and they're affixed with this specific disease that has like a single host that originally created it, and it's this demon prince known as the Great Mother, and she has this. My lore for her is she's actually like a human that was like one of the oldest demon princes in Nurgle's domain, and she was never a space marine or anything. She was just a demon prince that just started to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I have a special model to represent her, and I was going to run her as like my Mortarian standing, because they have the same base size and shit. But she created this thing called the Weeping Blight, which is a thing that slowly turns all the fluids of your body into this molten ichor that seeps out. And it's, if you worship her, the fluid is ever flowing, and it keeps you alive. But if you don't, you'll eventually just dry out. But the fluid itself is like molten hot. And I always thought that this was kind of a fun idea for me. So I always themed my army after that specific idea of distributing this disease through pestilential means. So a lot of like blight throwers or blight spewers, a lot of plague spewers, a lot of plague belchers and shit, just shit like that. That's like, oh, we're going to spread the weeping blight as much as humanly possible across the board. And that's kind of why that's kind of what I did with them. And that was my first experience with actually like doing a 40k homebrew. And it definitely turned out pretty good. So yeah,
that sounds crazy good. Like I love the detail of that. Like especially the idea of the weeping, and like it's one of those things like it's detailed, but at the same time it's not like super hyper crazy specialist stuff, right? But it's the right amount where it gives it enough character.
And
that's great.
Yeah, that's where I kind of got to where I am now, where most of any homebrew army that I make, I have to make them with a theme. So the army itself is always going to have a structure based around that specific theme. Like, again, the Weeping Lords, their whole thing is just plague spewers, long distance bombardments to spread the sickness as much as humanly possible, because it's a disease that cannot be spread through any vectors except for those who worship the Great Mother. So I'm just like, wait, so how would something that thinks like that make their army? And that's how I tend to do it. I tend to be like like begets like. So okay, so what would this army look like? Okay, I would have to have these miniatures specifically in that army. Okay, these miniatures in the Deathguard lore, like, oh, we're putting in Biologus Putrefier. They're by design are meant to test and refine diseases. I'm like, okay, and then they send that off to the Fetid Blight spawn. And I'm like, okay, so what if these guys are like the main leader figures of them because they cultivate the Weeping Blight itself? And I'm like, coming up with these ideas as we're building it. And I think that's like a good experience to kind of have your formative homebrew shit on, even though I was like pretty late into 8th edition when I started doing that. But yeah.
No, that's sick. I love that whole idea. So
yeah, quite literally, actually.
Yeah,
sorry.
Praise be the grandfather.
Yeah.
So that brings me on to my next question, which is, what is your favorite homebrew? A homebrew that you've seen and you were just like, wow, this is the, oh my god, it is the John homebrew.
I don't know. Because, like, for me, my favorite kind of shifts on a dime at will. And when it comes to, like, homebrew chapters and shit, I've never really latched on to any in specific. I will say, I suppose I have, like, two. One of them is, like, me being, like, super biased. And it's a homebrew that I did on my channel as a joke.
Oh, yes, the Promethean Kings. Love that.
Yeah, I'm glad that stuck so hard. So,
not gonna
for
lie,
those who don't know, I know I had a lot of people. Every person
bro, I'm a Sally super fan. So I was like, there's no way this exists. Is this new? Did this book come out? I was literally Googling like the Promethean Kings book, like while you were doing that. And it was like, the end was like, oh, you beautiful bastard.
Well, that's the thing with storytelling in the 40k setting. As long as you know the setting well enough, you could make anything sound goddamn convincing. So for those who don't know, I released a video a while back because I have this series that I do where I start from 1 and go to 20, and then I cover a successor chapter of every legion in order of the legions and whatever. And I got to the theme for this one was second founding, and there's no second founding salamander chapters, so like we couldn't do that. So I just decided I was gonna make one up and not tell anybody. And in the original draft of that script, I wasn't gonna tell anybody that they were like fake. And then I realized that the joke would only be to me. The joke would not be funny to anyone else. It would only be to me.
Dude, could you imagine the sheer shitstorm that would occur after that?
I don't even think it'd be a shitstorm. I think people would just be confused.
No, bro. I mean, I don't mean shitstorm in that sense, but like people would be, like confused, bro. Could you imagine the sheer like you would capsize the entirety of the Warhammer 40k community? And like I could be people asking GW for like Promethean King's book, and GW would be like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, so I made an entire like short story about how
it was really
there's this subsection of them that's like super believable, that's making references to actual lore events that happened, and it's all like super cool. And I stuck with a very specific theme, and the theme was, oh yeah, they look like this, and I posted like obscure art from a very specific Salamanders model from Warhammer 40k. And it's the Salamanders Pyroclasts. And they have a very... they have like a very... Oh, God. They have a very specific look to them. Where...
They use a special artificer armor and droid skin.
Yeah, and they all have like the cloth mask of drakeskin over their mouth, and
So sick.
they're very distinctly salamanders, but they have such a different look that makes them look a lot more brutal, a lot more aggressive. And I was like, okay, what if we just use this? And there's enough art of them out there for me to be like, yeah, it's just an obscure chapter that no one knows about. So I just made that, and then like I think it was like 10 minutes into the video, screen goes black, and I'm like, you guys want to know the best part about everything I just said?
It was about 11 minutes.
Yeah, I just made that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just made that.
I'm not gonna lie. I paused the video and I burst out laughing.
Because
I
a lot of people liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when you posted that, and I replied, and I was like, "You beautiful God!" I was like, "God bless you, you beautiful bastard," because that was so good. That was so good.
Yeah,
that was such a great video.
The pizza time theme from Spider-Man 2 definitely pulled its weight on that one too.
Also, Promethean Kings, 12 out of 10. Such a good name.
I just like, what is the most believable name I could use? And I was just trying to be a dick about it. Yeah. Tragic Tale of the Promethean Kings. It's a 12-minute video, and 10 of it is just me gaslighting you. God, I love my job.
It's good. God, amen, brother. I get to make memes about stuff on the internet.
Yeah, so I like them specifically because of the effect they had in the comments.
It's a really great homebrew.
It's okay. It's okay. It's just well thought out, and it gives you like
shut
an
up.
idea.
It's great.
It's fine.
It's great.
But every single so that served two purposes, and the reason why I was like, kind of, how do I put that? The reason why I kind of wanted to do this was to point out that like there's a lot of people who make a habit of like going through a 40k video, and before the video even starts, it's just like, you're wrong, fuck you, and I'm like, oh, you think I'm wrong?
Yeah, I can say that.
You're right, but but yeah, I wanted to do that to kind of clown on a few people, and I caught a few. A lot of people were like, huh, that's super interesting. But I do like those. Those are fun, and I don't like them because they're homebrew, because like I just threw that shit together, and I was just like, whatever. But I think if I was going to pick like a genuine homebrew that I like actually like, not even just a chapter, I think it's like a tie. I know this is really weird, but the first one you're probably going to know, the second one maybe not. So first one, Dornian Heresy. Dornian Heresy is like one of those alternate history ones that like I'm pretty sure it was kind of the first one that kind of picked up steam, and then a lot of people were like, oh yeah, what about the Sanguinary Heresy or the Rabudian Heresy? I'm like, no, Dorn makes the most sense. And not to shit on them, if you like them, cool, whatever, but the Dornian Heresy made the most sense, except for like one fact and whatever. But I was a big fan of it. The idea of like the flip-flopped heresy was actually just such a cool idea. So the fact that like people like went with it and ran with it, and like there's so much like good lore and good like writing with it, and it's cute, right? It gives you an excuse that if you're like, oh hey, I want to run like Chaos Ultra, not Chaos Ultramarines, but like Chaos Imperial Fists, you can just do that. Because like you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm running a Dornian Heresy faction, or like, oh, I want to run Chaos Blood Angels. You could just do that, and I thought that was like super interesting. So I'm a big fan of that. But secondary to that, I gotta remember to look this up. Remember to look this up as I'm about to look it up. Goddamn. I think it's called. Yes, it's called The Broken Throne AU. So Broken Thrones is one that like I've been reading off and on every now and then, or it's just a Broken Throne, where they basically just rewrote the entire Warhammer Horus Heresy era completely. So a Broken Throne is like, what if we just had 20 different Primarchs? What would happen? Yeah, so they have all 20. They have all of them listed out. They have their factions listed. And I genuinely like it. And it's such a well-written piece of like lore that there's actually AUs for this AU.
Oh my god, what the hell?
Yeah, no, there's a Dornian heresy version of this called the Icarian Insurrection. Because they have like one of the coolest. Yeah, no, the second Primarch is it's Primarch of the Second Legion. The one that people like the most is Icarian Anasim. And I'm just like, yeah, people really like this character's design. Yeah. They gave him like a whole thing. His chapter or his legion was like the Lightning Warriors, and their whole gimmick was supposed to be like the Lightning Bearers, sorry, and they're like feudalistic kind of China kind of thing. It's like so cool. Everything about this is super, super cool. There's different chaos beats to it. There's like entire like descriptions of like all of the legions as they were discovered. I'm just genuinely like a huge fan of it.
I'm going through like,
oh yeah, of course. Here's the list of all the Primarchs, and like you probably might not even know them. Well, you're definitely not, because it's like all of them are just like completely from the ground up rewritten to be something different. Like the first legion isn't the lion; it's some guy named Kozja Darzalas, and he's the Warbringers. And there's like a lot of different. There's a lot of different.
What rabbit hole have you sent me down?
Dude, my entire life is obscure knowledge. So like finding this shit, I was like, man,
brother,
it's pretty cool. It's good. It's good. Everything is well written. It's very well thought out. And I'm a huge 6 hours fan of my life. Oh no, it's good. I'd highly recommend it.
Dude, I am all for this, bro. I'm gonna read the fuck out of this.
Yeah, and the big thing with them is that they don't want to mimic any of the actual pre-existing Primarchs, so everything is different. Like the 20th Legion has more in common with like a combination of the Deathguard and the World Eaters than they do with the Alpha Legion. It's so cool. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. The Grave Stalkers is what they were. Big fan.
The Grave Stalkers.
Yeah. The only problem is that it definitely has that issue that like a lot of like homebrew does, where like a lot of the armors can sometimes be a bit over designed, but sometimes they're fun.
I mean, bro, that you won't find me complaining about chunky armor. Love me chunky armor.
Fair. And there's just like a lot of different representation. I'm pretty sure there's like one that's based off of like Haitian voodoo like shit, and it's like it's good. It's good. The Primarchs all look good. The art's really good. I'm pretty sure the art is done by like one person, and this man is a fucking juggernaut. So I'm a fan. I'm a big fan, right?
Dude, that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's very expansive. I'm a big fan of it.
That's great. Yeah.
So my experience, my favorite homebrews are definitely like the Dornian Heresy, because it's super simple. It does a lot of good shit. And the Broken Throne AU, or a Broken Throne AU, because it's very well thought out. I do think that it's not as expansive as it should be, but its biggest fault as like an alternate universe is that 1 in 100 people will know what I'm talking about when I talk about it. It's like, oh man, Kawil is like such a cool Primarch, and like his Demon Primarch of Khorne form was like actually really cool. No one knows what I'm talking about, and I'm just like, man.
Yeah, I ain't gonna hold you, brother, man. I'm lost in the sauce, my guy.
Yeah, it's actually like really, really good. I'm a big fan.
I'm definitely gonna look into this. That is epic as all hell.
Yeah, I think it's also because they wanted to explore aesthetics that like don't exist normally in 40k. Like this is the Primarch of the 20th Legion, the Grave Stalkers.
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm actually like a big fan. Yeah, it's good. It's so good.
That's crazy cool.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find some more of the good art for that. But yeah, that's me. Those are probably my favorite. I don't like any specific chapter more than I like any other, but I do have some particulars that I'm like big on. So
Yeah, no, dude, dude, I'm, oh, bro, this can become my new obsession right now. That is crazy cool.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good art out there. There's like, there's some like actual crazy shit out there that dude, it's weird. Oh no, wait, I might be wrong. Brotherhood of the Lost might be the name of it, and Broken Throne might be its own thing. I gotta look. There's a lot of like weird AUs for this one, so I gotta remember the name. But I'll get you shit. Like,
yeah,
there's like actual like GW album cover or level art. Like,
damn.
there was like people were so there's like a stand-in. So there's this idea that people were like throwing around that like, what if Ikari and Anasim was actually like the second Primarch, and everybody was like, ooh, that'd be kind of cool. And so I don't even know who it was that commissioned it. It might have actually been Major Kill. Don't quote me on that. I'm probably wrong. I just remember that he used this as like art for the thumbnail of him talking about the second Primarch, and it was Lehman Russ going to kill Ikari and Anasim of the Second Legion. I'm like, that's fucking dope.
Oh my god, that is, whoa, Jesus.
Right? It's good.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That is so sick.
Okay, so the AU is actually called the Brotherhood of the Lost. A Broken Throne is actually an AU of that AU. Because it's
Jesus.
weird, right? So here's the actual wiki for the whole thing.
Oh, dude, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I feel like dude, that's so much crazy. Oh my, wow. Bro, that is my new obsession. That is my new obsession. Jesus.
Yeah, big fan. God.
I mean, that brings me perfectly to my final question, though, is what is your own homebrew? You have to make a homebrew for 40k, 30k, whatever it is. Your favorite, your best.
So, weirdly enough, we already talked about the Weeping Kings, but as it stands, I have two that I'm kind of tied between right now. The Weeping Kings are just fun. They were my first attempt, and I was like, I love the paint scheme. I love everything about it. So, there's that. But right now, I'm currently playing two. The two of them are very heavily themed, and I'll get into it. But the first one that I started, I think, well, it was probably last year when the Leagues of Votann update came out. Like the big, I think it might have been 2 years ago now that I think about it, but there was this like update of, we're releasing the Leagues of Votann. So I picked them up, and I came up with this idea of like, what if I just took every single theme that I know from the Leagues of Votann lore and then put it into my own like idea. So that's where the Ratat Tasker Mining Corporation came from. The Ratat, I know you're technically not supposed to pronounce the R in Ratat Tasker. Shut up. That's not to you. That's to anybody else who was going to say anything.
Yeah, no, bro, it's like language is hard.
Yeah. So the idea behind the Ratat Tasker Mining Corporation is based off of like the Leagues of Votann as a whole. They live in the Galactic Core. They trade in the Galactic Core, and a lot of people who make their own homebrew for the Leagues of Votann tend to they tend to be like focusing more on the warlike aspects of them, and I kind of was like, well, what if we focus on the merchantry style aspects of them? So the idea is that they're literally just a group of like merchants. Their whole gimmick is they divided their Votannic core up into 3 smaller heads instead of the one bigger one, as a way to stave off that obsolescence that was coming. This idea that not obsolescence, senescence that's coming for the Votann, because the Votann all slowly erode away if they're not properly stimulated and given enough information over time. So to ward that off, they made 3 smaller cores that were divided between 3 different ships, and it's the Odin Or, the Lokir, and the Thorgir, and each one of them has a different theme based around the central idea of being merchants. So the Odin Or is the main core one that I've been building, where they're based around, they're literally the merchant side of things. They sell the stuff, but in exchange they have the best gear. But because they have the best gear, they don't have any specialization. So the majority of my forces are going to be like different same armor color, but with different accents. So with them, it's like dark bronzy brass with black cloth, and the main accent for them is gold because they're merchants. They sell to everybody else, and they have a more of an efficient thing like that. But they're generalists, so they don't have any like special slant. The one that I'm currently working on is the Lokir, which they're literally the miners. They are the ones who work and scout and do all of the work in order to get the material back. So their gimmick is, I recently just perfected their secondary paint scheme, and same thing, brass, black, but their secondary color is a cobalt metallic blue. And it took me a while to find a way to mix the paints properly to make that look like that. But their theme is like they have like a lot of the Hernkin, like the pioneers, the people who scout. They have a lot of the miners who go into the mines and actually get things, the Chthonian berserks. And they're more focused on mobility, getting a claim, getting shit out as quick as possible. And then whenever I get to the Thogir, which is going to be the third one, they're going to be the bodyguards, the guys who protect the claims and the merchants in equal measure to make sure that like whatever needs to be sold is sold. And I don't know what their accent color is going to be, but I'm working on it. I'm thinking either red or green in terms of like ruby or emeralds. But there's that. They're cool. I love them. I love the aesthetic of the Leagues of Votan, so I'm working on that.
Space Wolves.
Oh yeah, but the current one that I'm literally painting, not as we speak, but like I have one more miniature I got to paint before I go on my trip, so I have a fully painted army when I go visit my buddy and play against him.
Sick.
Is the Desert Birds of Peck. I have not received more shit from friends, from people that I don't know, from people that never spoke to me. Then when I said, yeah, I'm just going to be playing an entirely 100% Kroot army and I will not add any Tau elements whatsoever. I have never had more people be like, well, you're not going to have any anti-tank. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to be throwing sticks and rocks and I have to outthink them. I can't just gun them. And I've had so many people be like, I mean, you could just throw in like one broadside and no one will care. I'm like, I will care. And that's the big theme.
Return to Burb.
Exactly. So my entire theme around them is they're from the more heavily sunned area of Peck, which is the planet the Kroot come from. They are an entire mercantile, or not mercantile, that means to purchase. They're an entire mercenary based culture where the highest ranking members of the society have to have left planet at some point and served as mercenaries, which is why I always like make sure that the Farstalker kin bands that I get, which are the kill teams, I make sure that I'm going to have at least 2 or 3 of those, because those guys are supposed to be like the highest rank. So I make sure that they are the most like diverse in color scheme, the most eloquently painted, the best skills I have I put into them, because they're the most respected members of like the tribes. They come back and guide everybody to be like, oh, this is how you fight these things, because we fought them before. And they're sandy browns in terms of like skin tone. I have like in my head different tribes of individuals that are like the different birds are the different tribes and shit. So each bird is based around, or a different color is based around like the different tribes, and each tribe has their own gimmick. Like the more yellow skinned kind of sandy individuals, they tend to be the most brash and cocksure, so I make them like a bunch of carnivores and shit. The ones that have like a darker, more beige color, they tend to be the beasts masters, so they're the ones who have like a lot of Krootoks and Kroot hounds. I make the leader casts of individuals, like the shapers and shit. I make sure that they have like an almost albino, well, it's still sand colored, but like a lighter shade, so that they're just like, oh yeah, this one's born for greatness kind of deal, because Kroot do have like a weird genetic cast, so it's weird. But yeah, I've been sorry?
You can say that again.
Yeah. But yes, I'm fucking around with that, and I've been painting them, and I've been really, really enjoying them. So those are the 2 that are kind of like top of my list right now, right?
Yeah.
Because those are what I'm playing, and I love the Kroot. The Kroot probably have my current favorite playstyle to some degree.
Unga Bunga Smash.
Oh, it's not even Unga Bunga Smash. They're made of paper, dude. Like if I,
Oh god.
right? Like I'll that you breathe on me wrong, I die. It's rough, dude.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. Bro, if you pulled up and you were like, okay, tower, I'm like, okay, cool, tower. It's like, no, Kroot, me burp have stick.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even say Kroot. I wouldn't even say Tau. I say I play Kroot. I actually had a conversation like that when I was playing a friend.
You got my respect, brother. That's based as fuck, bro. That's
I came up and I was like, yeah, I'm playing Kroot, and they're like, oh, so you're playing Tau? I'm like, no. I'm playing Kroot,
boy. You
like, there's a difference here. Like, a whole 80% of this codex is completely useless to me.
How many models do you have then for a 2K game?
Oh, I don't have a 2K. I have 800 points at this point. But that being said, about 100 models.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Bro, you have like 400 models, bro.
They keep decreasing the points. What am I supposed to do? It's like it's like a squad of like 10 Kroot carnivores. It's like 85 points. I'm like, hell yeah. That's a little cheap, but like whatever. They come in squads of 10 to 20. Hell yeah. And then it's like, a week later, like, the Kroot are now 70 points each. I'm like, oh no. Every single model in the army range got a points decrease except one. And I'm like, oh, this is rough. It's good. It's a good problem to have.
Playing like Custodes, and then just that.
It's like an auto win against anything that doesn't have anti-horde, because no one in my community plays horde, so no one knows what to do if I just pull up with like 120 birds on the table.
Horde, right? But then there's 400 models horde.
Okay, so like realistically, I could only bring 120 like Kroot carnivores because that's 6 times 20, whatever. But then we have like the Kroot hounds, which are almost as cheap. They're 4 points a model. No, wait, they're 7 points a model. Sorry. So
the green tide now has a whole new meaning.
Yeah, right. I kind of want to see what would happen because I don't know if anybody could deal with it.
Bro,
and we have that stratagem.
It's going to take you a full hour.
You don't even know because they're hypermobile too. That's their big. The big thing with them, how do I put this? Is like they're like super mobile. So like they get a scout 7-inch move at the beginning of every turn. Every model in the army. But yeah, every single one of them except for the hounds, they move 12.
Oh. What the fuck?
Yeah, but again, toughness 3 and a 6-up armor save.
Oh yeah, you are made of less than paper.
If you run the Kroot specific detachment, you lose all Tau ability. Well, Kroot can't be affected by the Tau army ability anyway. So if you run the Kroot detachment ability, you get a 5-up invuln against range and a 6-up against melee, but also you get like +1 to your hit roll if you're attacking anything that's like below starting strength and +1 to your wound roll if they're below half. So
not bad.
That's all I need, dude. I have nothing above strength 7. We're just gonna hope, God. Right? But here's the problem with that. We have a stratagem. If a unit of Kroot dies, 2 command points, put a unit the exact same size in reserves.
Bro, no.
I could just run a bunch of 20-man units and keep bringing dudes back.
God, dude, that is... I don't even want to think about that.
I have so much fun with Kroot.
You, my respect, brother. For you to move that many models, my respect. That's beast as fuck, bro.
Best part is you can have 2 characters in a unit of 20 Kroots. So I'm just like, hell yeah.
Oh, shit.
It's so stupid. It's so stupid because they're terrible. They're terrible models. Like the characters are not even that much better.
It doesn't matter if you win the game. You won at life.
It is funny because I was like, oh man, I had 1,000 points worth of Kroot ready because I run tournaments in my spare time. I got one. Yeah, just casual tournaments. I actually make it so that it's hard for people to kind of exploit rules in any way, shape, or form. So it's like static primary objectives throughout all 3 rounds, and I arrange the maps and so on. But we do 1,000 points, and no model can be 200 points or more. No individual model. So if you're running knights, I'm sorry, you have to bring armigers. I say I'm sorry, but those are pretty good. But and I had 1,000 points worth of recruit, and then every single model in my army went down. So now I have like an extra 200 points to spend on more recruit, and I'm like, stay winning, but also, man, my wallet is malnourished. Like it's frail.
Bro, I feel that so.
Yeah.
It's called plastic crack for a reason, kids.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good.
That's epic.
But yeah, those are my 2 homebrew armies, and I play them for whatever. But yeah, the Desert Birds of Peck, I think in terms of lore, my favorite is the Ratat Tasker Mining Corporation, because I just love the theme, I love the aesthetic, I love them, whatever. But in terms of like playstyle and just the theme of the playstyle that I have going of just fast moving, almost all infantry. I'm sorry, there's more birds. Like
bird.
The Desert Birds are kind of my thing. They're definitely more fun to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's epic. My respect for that. And
yeah,
that brings me to my last 2 questions. Just real quick, what would be your advice to anyone wanting to get into homebrew?
Oh yeah, no, the advice is super easy. Just do, no, I don't want to say do as I do, but the best way to look at it is just, if you're ever having trouble coming up with it, make a theme and then stick to it. Don't break theme just because it's better, or don't break theme because like, oh, this model. No, if you're going to make a homebrew faction and you want to have like the best time out of it, if you're like, oh, I want to make a chaos warband that's themed around like, oh, they specifically have like a diverse mixture of all the Godsworn guys, make sure your shit's diverse. Don't just be like, yeah, but you know, world eaters are the best right now, so we got to have world eaters. We got to have nothing but berserkers in my army. No, don't do that. You fuck trying to win. Play the funniest shit you can as long as it fits your theme. And if your theme's good, ride that high. Don't be like ashamed of like playing something that's really good. Because again,
to the bit.
Exactly. It's like, I will not feel bad if I go up against a custodian player with over 300 models of Kroot. What is he going to do? It's not my fault my army cannot be killed by his army. Like, 2,000 points. Oh, jet bikes. Oh, explosions. You do 2d6 per turn. Congratulations. You're going to get at least a third of my army by the end of the game. That's it. But, like, don't feel bad about playing something that's good. But if you're going to make an army that has a theme, stick to the theme. It's usually best for your own enjoyment and just your long term. Because, like, if you chase that, like, that high of, like, oh, yeah, I got to play the best models, then you're just going to eventually, when the meta changes, like, you're just going to have models that you're not going to play anymore. Mm-hmm. So just pick what you think is the coolest and then go from there.
Yeah. I feel like it goes without saying, but it just, like, the whole point of this is, like, a guy, like, hey, new to homebrew? Check this out. You don't have to be involved in the hobby to make homebrew. This is coming from someone who is not involved in the hobby in any stretch of the imagination, period. But if you just want to write up like a cool guard regiment or a cool space marine chapter, a cool Eldari craft world, Tyranid High Fleet, Orc warband, whatever, it's like, write it up, make some art, do whatever. Like, so long as you show a love and respect for the community as well as the IP, it doesn't matter what you do. People will see when you're passionate about something, when you have like deep love and enjoyment of it, and they'll respect it. Don't worry about it. Because remember, you're doing this for you because like you have a cool idea, right? And you know, maybe your guard regiment has power armor. It's possible. I mean, there is human power armor. So what? That's cool. I like it. Just enjoy it. Yeah.
Definitely. You said you had one more question for me.
What is the cringiest homebrew you've made ever? Doesn't have to be 40k related.
See, I don't look back at anything that I've made with shame. I think that's like I think that's a big step with like any kind of creative process in terms of production. Because like I could go back and be like, oh yeah, when I was 10, I made this story that was based off of like a plot line in Naruto that I like, but I don't feel any cringe over that. Because when it comes to like the creative process, it's all about those individual steps you have to take.
Yeah,
you learn from everything that you do, and like I don't see with any wince or cringe or shame because I had to go through that to get to where I am now, and I am very thankful that I got the ability to go through all that so that I can like experience and have the experience that I have now to make things that I am a lot more proud of, you know? In terms of like cringeworthy homebrew, I never cringe about anything. I guess in like the only time in D&D I'd ever say I'd cringe is when I accidentally kill an entire party. But that's the only time. But I think that's
as a DM, you either underbuild the boss or you overbuild the boss. There is no in between.
Except for me, it's like this isn't even homebrew. Can I go into this? This has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah, fuck it,
it's
go
like
ahead.
a really fun TPK moment that I had. It's like it's kind of one of the only ones that I look back on with a little bit of shame that I was like, not shame in the sense of like, man, I wish I didn't do that. I was like, man, after they all died, the game ended.
Yeah.
But so for those who don't know, one of the best D&D campaigns you can ever play. It's a little bit of a third-party thing from the OGL. It's I study nerd history in my free time. I study a lot of things in my free time.
Let's go.
Like, I'm not naturally a very smart person. I'm a very experienced person. I like to say that more than I like to say I'm smart, because it kind of sounds like I'm smelling my own farts here. But like, I like to experience new things, so I always go out of my way to engage in media that's whatever. So D&D history is kind of an important part of my life, so like learning about it's cool. So shouts out to the book Game Wizards. If ever anybody who wants to learn about D&D's history, read that. It's got an audiobook, really good. But in about late 90s, there was a company that was founded by the name of Necromancer Games. They applied using the OGL for D&D 3.5. D&D 3.5 is god tier. You can't fuck with it. You can't touch it. I like it more than I like 5e, but I like 5e, so don't think I'm shitting on it. But Necromancer Games was a campaign publisher that would use the license from the Open Game license to make their own games and modules and shit. So they eventually disbanded and then kind of reformed as like a new one called Frog God Games, and that's what they're called now. Frog God Games releases some of the best modules I have ever played in my entire life. They're some of the most well thought out, some of the best, and some of the most difficult modules you can ever play. And some of them are pretty fun. Like there's one that's literally just how Orcus stole Christmas. And I was like, that's cool. I like that. That's cute. But one of the best games that they have is technically a two-parter, but it's not. I say two-parter, like completing one took 3 years.
God.
So technically there's the Slumbering Sar Saga. And the Slumbering Star Saga is amazing. It's a massive mega dungeon campaign that is like level 7 to level 20. It's amazing. But the one I'm talking about is the one that's level 1 to 20, which is called Rapan Athuk. Rapan Athuk is the most difficult game. It is the most bullshit game. It is the best campaign I have ever played. It is one of those campaigns that like you read the first page and it's like, hey, tell your players to bring at least 2 or 3 backups to each session. So good. Jesus. So good. It's brutal, but like it's fair most of the time. And then there's just like some bullshit. But so Rapanathuk is this ancient dungeon, and it gives you enough. And this is also like a good homebrew lesson because it's a very classically written D&D campaign. It actually, in the last 5 years, got ported to 5e. So I'd recommend picking it up. You can pick up a digital version of it from like Frog God Games website for like $20. It's great. Not sponsored. I just like their shit. Yeah. But and there's like a lot of openings and gaps in the writing that are like, oh, in this village there are these characters. Doesn't tell you anything about the characters except for like important ones. Will be like, oh, this is their personalities and shit. I'm like, okay, cool, we'll go with that. But there's like a journey to get to this massive dungeon known as Rapanathuk, and doesn't tell you anything about the way there. Except there's this place called the Forest of Hope. The things you'll find in the Forest of Hope. You'll find a bunch of other encounters along the way. And it's very much a way to test your skills. But the one thing I regret is we had 2 months worth of weekly sessions. We met up. We recorded everything because we're like, this is really fun shit. And we were just playing, and the characters developing like chemistry, and they were doing quests in like the local area instead of going to Rapanathuk. And then they all hit level 2. Or level 3, and they're like, let's go to Rapanathuk's main entrance, which is known as the Mausoleum. Now, the Mausoleum has one of the meanest traps I have ever used in a game, and it is something that I regret to this day. And is in the graveyard that is part of the mausoleum. There's a hidden key that you need to find. It's not that hard. It's it's a DC 18, but like if you look at the headstone, if you look, there's a giant grave in the center of the thing. If you look at it, it turns into a DC 10. So like,
okay,
it's perception. Still. It's like, yeah. So it gives you a chance to just find it raw, or it gives you a chance to just, if you're looking at it, there's a secret compartment, there's a key, whatever. You walk into the mausoleum. And once you get past the halfway point, there's a loud there's this like clicking, sucking sound as the doors behind you slowly start to close. And you have to let the players know that, like, hey, if you want to leave, you can leave right now. You have 1 round to leave. And they're like, no, we're going to keep going forward. I'm like, okay, that's the bad decision if you don't have the key. So, so what happens is there's actually a mechanism built into the floorboards of this massive stone mausoleum that after 3 rounds, and you have to make all the players roll initiative because you have to count out the rounds, not the turns, the rounds. That after 3 rounds, the floor starts to go up. And after 3 rounds of the floor going up, there's nothing you can do. Because at the end of the hallway, there's a door that has a keyhole in it. If you have the key, you can open it. If you have a strong enough character, you can break it open. It's DC 20 without the key, but whatever. And I remember that 4 out of the 5 players went in the mausoleum, the door locked, and one of the joke character was outside. And everybody's like, we can't open the door, what's going on? And then just suddenly I had to describe in as brutal and visceral way possible, they just get crushed to death. And that's the only thing I look back and cringe on in terms of like homebrew, because I had to lore it that they did that. It was brutal. It was brutal. It actually, like, the amount of actual art I got for that campaign from the people who were in it made me upset with myself that I ruined it.
Dude, that trap is nasty. Not even 3 turns, 3 rounds.
It gives you time. It gives you time to like fuck around, but it's just,
bro, that's wild.
It's brutal. It is brutal, and because of its existence, it's just like, let me see. We have. Let me find it. Here it is. This was done. This is just for you. You could play this on the recording. But this was done by the person whose character survived, and we're just like, yeah, the character's broken at this point. We gotta end the campaign. So this was like an animation they made to like show it.
I mean, like, are you cool if I use that in the video, or is that?
Yeah, go for it. All right,
it's okay.
Fine. But this was just there being like, yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, I'll push that in, but yeah, no, that's wow. That's
it was brutal. Yeah.
DandD stories.
God, I never go soft on those. I have some fucking wacky ones.
Yo, dude, I think it's like I have the same, but yeah, no, that's all I have for him. So yeah, Mr. Arthur, thank you very much for giving your thoughts about the homebrew. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries, and thank you for letting me go on like a 20-minute tangent about a D&D massacre I partook in.
Oh, bro, if you let me talk about history, you'd be a whole damn day. Like, I'll talk.
Valid.
On God.
Valid. No worries, man.
All right, and just
okay.
click this.